Greetings and welcome back to the Pastafarian Going Industrial. Today again with Christoph.
Hey guys.
So, today, first of all, I said it like 3 episodes ago. We got a comment by Bran Lodder about enchanting stuff. Um, I totally forgot about that in the last episode when we built the nuclear fuel facility. So in this episode, I at least want to craft the crafting table, some bookshelves, and put them down. So I already have the material for that here. So first of all, let's craft this enchantment table, the achievement, and I preparated a little shack where this will be going. Unfortunately, I don't have every bit of leather we would need for having this a full going around circle, and so we have to wait a little bit until we can enchant. We will occasionally check what our little flock of, or more a herd of cows is doing. As you can see, there are some calves there, and we have to wait until they are fully grown. So, yeah, there was something on my mind in the last episodes when we built the blast furnace, the nuclear plant, and so on and so forth. And yeah, while Christoph is currently preparating all the nuclear components we need for the actual reactor, which will be put in a building on this small hill you can see there, I want to talk a little bit about iron and steel production in the real world. I don't know if I ever talked about this. What you might know is that I work in a power plant, and this power plant is not a coal power plant or something else, which you know from your local energy supplier. It is a power plant which is located on or which is connected to a steel plant. When you produce iron and steel, there are gases which occur in vast amounts, and according to European law, you have to use those gases energetically correct, and yeah, for that we have power plants, 2 of those to be exact. Yeah, and there, where should I start? Maybe we start on how to actually produce steel. So, if you don't like educational stuff, feel free to to skip this part. But I had that on my mind, so I'll do it anyway. So, steel production. First of all, is in a steel production you have the ores. The ores are collected in a mine, of course, and you get iron ore from that. The iron ore can be several different types of iron ore. Since I don't work in the ore treatment or something else, I don't know how what they are called, but there are different types of that, and several types of that are then brought to the mill. The whole facility with the where the steel is produced is called the mill, I suppose. Let me look that up quickly. As I hope I don't say anything. Yeah, it's a mill. The whole plant is called a mill. Okay, so the ores get there. We get them with big ships. like tons and tons of iron ore and coal in different shapes, so as a powder or as small chunks of coal and small chunks of iron ore. We can't really use that as it is. First of all, the ore and the coal has to be processed. So actually, it's a lot like this plant we brought up here in a few episodes ago. Not ore washing, to be honest, but yeah, something similar. So first of all, when the ores get there to our mill, they are brought to they get onto conveyor belts and get brought to something called the sintering plant. You might or might not have heard of that. It's also called an agglomerating plant. Maybe this helps you more. Basically, what we do there is crush the ores down a bit if we got chunky pieces. And after that, they don't get washed, but they get mixed with coal. And both in powder form, put onto conveyor belts in definite amounts, and after that there are burners on that conveyor belt who heat the mixture of coal and ore. And because of the coal which is on there, okay, actually there are some more substances on there, like chalk and some other pieces I don't know of, but basically the coal burns, and the little pieces of the ore agglomerate together. They bake together like some kind of cake, and after that it falls down from the conveyor belt and is gets broken down by a crusher. You may now be asking, why are they not buying the ore in the size they need? Well, first of all, it would be more expensive, and second of all, to use this ore in the right manner, it has to be mixed with coal. So there are little pieces of coal in that kind of cake, and it's actually called a sintering cake. At least in German, it's called Sinterkuchen, and when you translate it word by word, it would be a sintering cake. I don't really know the English expression for that, so sorry for that. Yeah, it gets crushed down into a special size, and afterwards this is called the sinter. After it gets out of there, it is then brought to the blast furnace. Now, in industrial craft, the blast furnace is used for producing refined iron from normal iron, which is not really correct, to be honest. So, first of all, after we have the agglomerated ore pieces, we put them in a blast furnace, together with coal and coke. With coke, I don't mean the white powder which you snort with your nose. No, it's coal which is specially treated. To get coke from coal, you have to cook the coal in a so-called cokery or coking plant without oxygen, because if you put oxygen in there and you put heat onto the coal, it would burn and you only get ashes, and you don't want that. You want coke. So for that you put it into a chamber without oxygen, heat it, and all the gases and liquids which are quite elusive, they emerge from the coal and get into gassy form, which is then coke oven gas, which, to get back to my working place, is one of the gases we use for energy production. Now back to the iron making or steel making progress. So we now have the coke, we have the sintered ore, and we put that together with chalk into the blast furnace. So it is put in there, and from the top to the bottom it gets hotter and hotter. In the blast furnace there are temperatures about 3000 degrees Celsius, so 3300 degrees Kelvin. So a insane amount of heat, and for that you need oxygen in there. So the setup of the blast furnace here in the Industriecraft is right in this part, as you need oxygen for that. So normally in the blast furnace you get the mixture of coal, coke, and iron ore up here, and as it progresses downwards, it gets hotter and hotter, and at the bottom of the blast furnace, you get the liquid iron, the raw iron, which has a lot of carbon in it. And basically you don't want vast amounts of carbon in your iron or steel, because it makes it kind of easy to break. So afterwards we get the raw iron in its liquid form, and it is then transported into a steel plant or a steelworks, and it's called a Bessemer steel plant because of the type of how the steel is processed. We put it into a giant pot and heat it. So we give vast amounts of heat to it, so it stays liquid. And we then put a rod in there through which there is flowing oxygen. And because of this oxygen it goes in there, there are a lot of sparks emerging from that. It's really interesting to see. You might want to look up something like that on the YouTubes. It's really interesting to see how this is made, and because of that we get steel. Now it is actually called steel. We get steel and slag. The slag is on top of the whole thing because it is lighter, and in there are all the substances you don't want into your in your steel. Besides the oxygen, we put in there all the different metals and substances we want in our alloy, because steel is always an alloy. Basically, it is an alloy of coal or carbon and iron. So normally you speak of steel when it has up to 2% mass percent of carbon in there, and if you have more, you have cast iron, but that's just a matter of definition. Steel is basically an alloy of iron and carbon. If you want more or other types of steel, you put in there something like manganese or chromium or nickel. Those are elements, for example, which are in there quite often. If you want stainless steel, you need about 18% chromium, and 10% nickel in there. The rest is iron and vanadium or something like that. So steel isn't the different types of steel aren't alike at all. There are more than 20,000 different types of steel. You can't really see the difference if you look at it, but on molecular level, they differ in a quite great bit. Okay, I ranted a little bit on there, but yeah, back to the oxygen steel plant. So we have our steel alloy now. For example, a stainless steel in liquid form. So you can't really use that, for example, to make a fork out of that. You don't make iron bars out of it. Normally, steel is always or gets into shape always on the mill itself. So our mill does that by rolling it. So the liquid steel gets transported to a metal former, but we call it a continuous casting plant, because the liquid steel goes into a pot on the upper side of it, and it gets continuously drawn down, and we get a giant band of steel of it. It's like I think 5 meters wide and half a meter thick. So it's quite enormous, and it gets cut into pieces of like 30 metric tons. So quite the giant bars, if you want so. But that's not the end of it, because those bars, which we call, let me look up the word in English. Okay, we call it Bramme in German. You also can call it a steel slab, or slab or scalp, if I read that correctly. Let's just call it a slab. So it's a giant steel slab, and you can't really transport that over the streets to your plant where you want to make your fork. So it gets rolled down into a coil. There are several barrels, or which roll down that giant piece of iron into a continuous small thin band of like 2 or 3 millimeters. It does that by heating the steel slab again, and with quite fast, it gets rolled down into a very long band of steel with 2 or 3 meters wide, and afterwards it is then coiled up to because you can handle it more easily. There is a step after that, but it's not always done. You can roll it down again, but not by heating it, but doing it in while the steel is still or is cooled down. And you do that because you can then roll it down more precisely. So the one thing is called the warm rolling and cold rolling, I guess. And with that you can roll it down to like 0.1 millimeters, so very, very thin. Yeah, and basically from that, or from profiled steel, like something like a T profile or an I profile, a U-profiled steel, you can build like everything. And yeah, this is basically how steel is made in the real world. And yeah, that was on my mind because yeah, it's not that realistic with the blast furnace here. But yeah, I'm quite happy they added it because the blast furnace in real life, it needs heat, it needs air, and so it's quite realistic. Could be more realistic, but with that it gets more complex, and I think it's complex enough. So I need to moisture my throat a bit, so I make a cut here. I don't know how long I ranted on now. Christoph, you went to bed. Great.
Yeah.
So I'm making a cut here. It could already be the case that the episode time is over. So let's see that. Alright, guys, as you can see, we have all the bookshelves now for enchantment. Took a little bit time to repopulate the cows, but finally we can enchant stuff. So, we can either enchant a helmet or a leggings or a bow. I wonder... no, that doesn't work. Would have been a little bit too overpowered as well. Yeah, I talked for quite a bit now. We already have like 22 minutes or so. So, leggings, bow. Oh, let's enchant a bow. Badunk. Power 4. Nice. Yeah, so, our first enchanted item. Now, Bren, thanks for the comment. We now have an enchanted bow. Christoph, why don't you go ahead and enchant something as well? Maybe a bow?
Yeah, but I have to craft a bow first.
Or maybe your chest piece?
I do not have any currently.
Oh. What do you have?
Is it the backpack?
You can't enchant that.
Yeah, sure. I know.
Or maybe you can enchant boots. Maybe you get feather falling. You have a chest piece in there.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Or maybe your boots. Or helmet. Although the helmet isn't that important since we got the scuba's helmets.
I take the chest plate and the boots. Yeah. But I need a bow. But do we have a string?
Not that I know of. No.
We just have 2.
Yeah, so just take the boots.
Yeah. Okay.
The 30 levels get consumed anyway because we don't play on the snapshot. So, yeah. The 30 levels will go away. Unfortunately. Here you go.
Dip, dip, dip.
And what have you got?
I'm still thinking if I take the 19 or the 30 levels.
Take the 30 levels. The 19 levels is, nah.
Okay. Projectile protection 4, feather falling 4.
Oh, not bad. Not bad. Those are good boots. Nice. Yeah, so, stay here. Where are you going?
Yeah.
We already reached the end of the episode time. I wonder how... why not? Sure, why not? Like this. Okay, so... awkwardly positioning myself on the enchantment table. Yeah, so, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, a rating would be much appreciated. Most favorably, of course, a like. And yeah, I would be really curious to know if you liked the my little talky, explainy thingy about how to make iron in the real world. I had quite fun doing that, and yeah, if you want, I could do something like that in future episodes as well. From now, every now and then, maybe talk about how a nuclear power plant works in the real world or a normal power plant. Yeah, I
You
would
mean
be really.
nuclear?
It's pronounced nuclear. Mm? Yeah, I would be really curious to know what you think about that. So, yeah, leave a comment if you'd like that, or maybe if you don't like that. Um, anyway, would be nice. So, yeah, be sure to check out my channel, subscribe to my channel, and be sure to check out Christoph's channel. He's building a home cockpit over there. Pretty cool stuff. The link will be in the description as always. And yeah, yours faithfully, ThePastafarian.